Is it possible for you to jump timelines in order to arrive at your big manifestation faster? I believe it's possible. If you are really clear about your intention and about what timeline you intend to end up on. And I invite you to see the concept of a timeline very similar to different potentials that are out there in the quantum field. And there's a potential for every reality that you want to experience. In the same way as you always have to remember that everything is happening right now, and that time is a construct that is made by human beings and that is not valuable in the spiritual realm. Because in the spiritual realm, or let me rephrase that, I would say applicable. Valuable might be the wrong word. That is not applicable in the spiritual realm, because in the spiritual realm, in universal energy, everything happens right now. Everything happens in this moment, and this is also the reason why you can draw things to you, either with a lot of time in between them coming to you, or with minimal time in between them coming to you, in regards to you sending the signal out and then drawing the experience to you. But the fact that there is a time lag in our physical reality has nothing to do with time itself. It just has to do with how good you are at reaching the frequency of what you want to draw to you. And the more intensely you feel the frequency of whatever it is that you want to manifest, the faster something can show up in your reality. So now you might be saying, "Hey, Sebastian, what does it have to do with timelines?" Well, think about it this way. And this is just a concept how I always visualize it. This is kind of you can say a little helper, a picture that I always use in my mind when it comes to thinking about timelines and explaining timelines. And maybe it resonates with you, maybe it doesn't, we will see. But here's how I always see it. I see timelines in this concept. Let's imagine for a moment you take a piece of paper and you draw 10 lines on that piece of paper, each line above the previous one. So you put 10 different lines on top of each other. We just use 10 for the sake of this example to make it easier. That doesn't mean that there are only 10 timelines in your life to choose from and to manifest, but it's just an example right now. So you draw 10 lines on a piece of paper, one above the other, and each of these lines represents a timeline. Each of these lines represents a timeline that you can jump on. And you can also, if you want, draw you down there as a little figure or whatever, and you then imagine that the higher you jump, just like in Super Mario, if you've ever played that game, just like in Super Mario on the old Nintendo, where the higher you jump, the further you reach, and the higher you jump, the easier it will be for you to skip a timeline, to go from timeline 1, which is line number 1, to timeline 3, which is line number 3. Jesus, I'm getting confused now. But yes, which is line number 3. And the more you jump, which means the higher you reach the frequency, the easier it will be for you to skip a timeline and to jump timelines to arrive at your big manifestation faster. So let's say, for example, there is a timeline in which you're completely broke, and maybe that's the timeline that you're on right now. But then there is a timeline where you are making $5,000 a month and you live very comfortably. But at the same time, there is a timeline out there. If you only reach the frequency of abundance more and faster and more intensely, where you make $20,000 a month. And now one might assume, okay, in order to reach the next timeline, we then have to go from $5,000 a month to the timeline where we make $7,000 a month or $8,000 a month. But now we come to the concept of jumping, timeline jumping. Again, I invite you to picture this idea of Super Mario where you're just jumping, say, "It's a me, Mario," where you're just jumping really, really far, or let's say really high. That's a better way of saying really, really high. And then because you jump so high, you skip 2 of these lines and you land directly on timeline, and now I lost count, whatever, 5, 6, 7, you are on a higher timeline directly, which means if you use this principle in the realm of manifesting, we can then say that by you jumping timelines, you go directly from making 5,000 to making 20,000 a month, and you don't even have to go through 7,000, then 8,000, then 12,000, then 15,000. You are jumping directly one timeline. And this is something that I'm experiencing right now. This is something that I'm thinking about now for the first time ever. And that's why I also want to share this with you in this episode. Because before, and you most likely know this if you've listened to my podcast for quite a while, I was a big fan of always going step by step by step by step by step, like from $1,000 a month to 2,000, then to 4, then to 6, then to 10, then to 15, and then finally we reached 20,000. And in the last couple of weeks and months, I more and more allowed myself to go into more and more intense meditations in which I intended to jump timelines and to go directly from the 20,000 I'm making right now to 40,000 or to 30,000 without going back to the concept of, okay, from 20,000 I have to first go to 22,000 and to 24,000. And I'm like, no, I'm going to immediately double it or triple it. Let's see what happens. And I've already experienced incredible ideas, downloads directly from the universe into my sometimes a little bit crazy brain. And I now am a firm believer that I am able to shift these timelines. But shifting these timelines requires you to, just like in Super Mario, jump higher. You need to jump higher, which means you need to feel the emotions of your future more intensely. You need to feel that this reality that you want to create is already your reality. And it's not just your reality in the sense of you may be believing it that it's your reality, or you feel like it sometimes. No, you want to immerse yourself into this reality. No matter if we're talking about how you dress, how you walk, how you talk, how you look, the way you move, the way you sit, everything has to be in alignment with that reality that should then be or let's say that will be, that's a better way of saying it, that will be your big jump from one timeline to a timeline that is way further ahead than the previous timeline that you were on, without you having go through the other timelines. And this is something that can only be done if you really immerse yourself in the manifestation process. And this is something that we will practice in the Abundance Reality Shift coaching program, especially also now that I'm experimenting with this myself. I now feel very confident in helping you to reach the frequency of abundance to such an extent where you are also able to jump timelines and to get what you want faster. And this is something that we will do in many different coaching sessions in the Abundance Reality Shift coaching program. We will work on creating your abundant self, your self that is actually worthy and a perfect vibrational match to the abundant future that you want. We will work on feeling the emotions with your body, expressing them, feeling them in a meditation, and creating pictures that are so clear that your mind truly understands, I can make this jump. I'm ready to jump timelines. And if you're ready to work with me, then you can go to affirmation2manifestation.com/abundance or click on the first link in the description. And I would be honored if you gave me the opportunity to help you and to make sure that you have this power and this skill set. I truly believe it's a skill set that can be learned to jump timelines in a way where you will experience your dream life faster than you can possibly imagine.